Okay, so hello everyone, how you doing? It's your boy Jad. I'm basically helping out the. Oh, do I have it open somewhere? I actually probably do have this open somewhere, and I'm listening to it for 1 sec. Whoops. Okay, this is better. Got it. I can't hear myself twice anymore, which is good. Oh, yeah, again, whoops, technical difficulties starting on. How y'all doing? It's your boy Jad. I'm basically helping out the amazing Conquest Reimagined team to get some optimization and stuff. I usually art. I'm currently a senior technical artist at Omidas, and yeah, stuff goes well. This isn't scripted. I'm just gonna be and just get this is either gonna be like completely embarrassing and disappointing, or it's just gonna get us some like easy wins. So let's get right to it. First things first, let's have a good look at what we currently have. A quick, without really bothering much, let's make this a little educational but unreal as well. A quick way to get an easy overview of how your game is running is to click the tilde key, which is right under your key, and then typing stat, which is STAT, and then unit, increase volume. Now, bold of you to assume that I know how to increase volume, my friend. Let's be completely honest. Is this any better? Hopefully. Test. 1, 2, 3. You can add the audio filters, which is weird. But just turn up the stream. Oh yeah, or just increase the volume of the freaking, not gonna lie. Okay, cool. Thank you. So yeah, let's get to it. So quick way to get quick units again, to like quick performance stuff is just to type the tilde key and then do stat unit, and then you'll get it. You can also do stat FPS to get an extra like FPS counter in there. First thing to do before starting on like looking at stuff in general is take a quick screenshot of what the current FPS is, put it on the side. I'm using PureRef to put it on the side just so I have a comparison of before and after. And let's start having a look of what we have. So earlier, a couple days ago, we found out a basically just a small problem where we're not really setting the bounds of the light. And basically the bounds of the light, a quick trick in games we do in order to not be rendering the light set the entire time, is when the players really we just hide them. And if my camera, don't mind me, I'm just using a horrible software for that. So we just hide the lights. The easy way to see this being visualized right in front of me is to, let me lower the camera speed a little so no one gets motion sick. Okay, is to go to lit, and then in here we can go to optimization view modes and we can see light complexity. So as we're Nanite, lighting is pretty OP in general. We can lower these values and not random seizures, but that would require us to go a little bit into the engine bit. So we can just deal with it for now. Most of the light complexities you see in here are coming from these specific places. But when we zoom in, everything is completely white. But when we start zooming out, you can see the white bits are disappearing. And what's happening right now essentially is the lighting being cold. We're hiding the light when we're so far from it because one, the player is most probably never going to see it, and two, it's just taking too much performance as it is. So this was a previous problem on a different level, and I can see that being a current problem as well. Because you see I'm very far from where I will ever be in the game, and I can still see all these strong lights overlapping. So what I would do first is I would try to find out where these lights are coming from. Now I have Unreal in a full screen view. I press F11 and I take it back to my normal view. I take out my outliner bit so I can see what I'm working with. So just from the shape and form of these lights, I can maybe assume they're point lights maybe. So first things first, I search for point, and again, there's a bajillion lights in here, simply because we like cinematic lighting. What I'm gonna do is just quickly go over. I can, yeah, no worries, buddy. Welcome, my friend. So going ahead, I will start just honestly just unhiding random lights and seeing where the problem is coming from. So first things first, we see that when I'm hiding the lights bit, it's not red anymore, which is what we want. So we know that this is coming from this one specific folder and nothing else. Let's have a look at these guys as well, making no change. That means these guys are good to go. We go to our lights, cave lights. Is it cave lighting? Nope, we hide this folder. Is it interior lighting? Nope, we hide this folder. So then we end up with a lot of lights that are like right under it. So I would say these are our culprits, and we can see them being right here, right now, and we can start seeing how to fix them accordingly. But an important thing to understand is that when people are working with lighting, some level designer put this here for a reason. They either put it by mistake, and it's very easy to notice because if you hide it, it won't make a change to the level, or there's a specific use for it and they have the sort of highlight that they're looking for, and you don't need to take that away from your character. Yes, my friend, it is indeed Helm's Deep level. So what we're gonna do is first identify which light in here is the cause, is just generally keep going at them one by one and seeing which one is giving us the most amount of problems. So we know for a fact it's these guys. So let's put them in their own folder and call them culprits, just so that we know what we're working with. We go back to our normal lit mode, and we have to start understanding, and my keyboard is going crazy. Let's just ignore that's happening. Okay, so we hide it. We see a lot of the lighting is dying, which again, I mentioned earlier, is when you're working with us, a level designer meant to have it, and we won't just delete it. The level designer will go out for blood, and I live my life. But and now that we have a general look at it, we know that these are the culprits for the lighting. But now if we hide them, let's have a quick look at the frame rate that we have, mostly draw and GPU. We're at 20 milliseconds on draw, or like 19, and then around 17 on GPU. If we hide the lights, literally just, and again, apologies for my mouse being very weird. Okay, we see that technically not a lot happened. Yes, we can optimize this because this is a problem, but this doesn't seem to be our most relevant problem. It was just a predecessor, something that happened with us before, and it's not what's bothering us most right now. So what we can also do is do stat GPU, and then we can see a little bit more about what's going on, why our GPU is a little killed. Shadow depth, that's very normal because we have lumen. A lot of lights and shadows are there, they exist, they're all real-time, next gen, and we just want them. So this is kind of a like necessary evil that we're working with. We also see that lights are also taking around a millisecond, but again, doesn't seem to be our biggest problem. So what we also know in here is that we have these big fog planes that are making our rain. Okay, this is quite interesting. So we know that we have this thing called good rain environment. And we notice this by just clicking anywhere, and there's this big bit that's appearing. When you get inside it, you realize your FPS is getting worse. And when you go outside it, you realize your FPS is getting better. So what we do first is find all the rain stuff, and we realize it's literally only this guy. We go to where I would call this is the core of my testing for now, because this is essentially where you'll be looking most. And let's just actually place a really easy camera for us to also test how our, what would you call it, how our performance is doing. So we place it here, we turn it, and then we call it my performance capture camera, just for the hell of it. And in the end of the day, honestly, when I'm doing this alone, I don't really care that much, but for the preview, this is the best practice that you would be doing in an actual production environment. So I pilot the camera. Now from this camera, I'm seeing on average how my FPS is doing. Let's put it on full screen. And so here we see again, we have 20 milliseconds on our poor GPU. I think you lock the location and rotation, although I somewhat forgot how to do that. We don't care about that much at the moment. But let's again put it on full screen and take a quick screenshot of where our performance is. Now we know this was a general flowing when we were just working with the camera randomly. And now this is going to be our big camera boss that we're going to base everything on. So again, going back to our big fog rain thingy, we have it in here. What if we hide it? Suddenly we just gained a big influx, or like a big add-on to what we were before. So let's take a frame, a quick screenshot. Let's have a look at our GPU. We went from 22 milliseconds to 17 milliseconds, and our draw stayed the same almost, or got a little higher, because draw is just a little different than what we're working with. Draw is more specific to the amount of things you see in stream on screen, rather than what the GPU is actually struggling with. And it goes back to the term draw calls, and then goes back to GPU stuff. Sorry. So we just hit a single rain environment. What's going on with that? Why is just one element, one blueprint is causing all of this? Let's keep going. So we make a new folder, and let's call it rain culprit to be able to find it easier. I use the term culprit in order to just search for culprit, and then I can find stuff really easily. Let's actually put culprit before culprit rain. Okay, so now we click again and we see, wait, why is there still stuff going above everything? When I'm clicking on it, I should be selecting my hero. Why am I still selecting something big? Well, if we unpilot our camera, we realize that this is also a bunch of cards. Now, what's basically happening here is called quad overdraw. Basically, when your GPU is looking at things and there's transparency, that's where you start facing some more problems. So transparent pixels basically have to redraw or check the pixels behind them before drawing. So you end up with something looking like, and this is where we go to quad overdraw, and I'll show you what exactly is happening in here. Whoop. Give it a second to compile, and exactly. So when you have a small seizure when looking at stuff, that means something is wrong and you need to fix it, and you need to run away at all costs, and then probably change your name, change your details, etc., etc. So what happens if we start fixing this? And again, to more go back on the point of quad overdraw, is that you see, if we're looking only at this rectangle from this specific view, it looks fine. And again, let's focus on the fact that bluish is good, and then whitish, close to reddish, is bad. So if we're only looking through this quad, it's fine. But when we are looking through another one, it starts getting worse. And when we start looking through other ones, it starts getting worse and worse. And this is what quad overdraw is. A lot of pixels are trying to draw on top of each other, and your GPU, which is a master computer that's running every frame, has to take a second and go like, wait, what goes on top, what goes behind, and what do I have to render? This goes back to our like party that's going on down there. So we go back down to our beautiful camera, and I called it my performance capture camera, and then we pilot it. I think there was a quick shortcut for this, Control-Shift-B. That is not a quick shortcut. And then we leave it, and then we find all our ground fogs. Let's place them in a folder, and let's call them culprit fog. So let's go back to where our performance was. We were at I'm going to use FPS simply for a general overview of what we're working with, but when you're discussing performance, always mention milliseconds. Because, well, okay, our game is running at 60 frames per second, but what is this telling us? It's running 60 different images per second, just like a flipbook. But a millisecond is telling us, well, this frame, every frame is taking 22, or 23 in this case, milliseconds to render. So now we know specifically what's going on in each stage. And this is why we use milliseconds, basically. So now we have all our big boys in here. Let's just hide them. Go back to our full screen. And take a screenshot. Whoop. So we put it in here. Then let's start comparing more stuff. Now what you see in here is that actually we got less performance than before. Wait, does that even make sense? So we hit stuff that were giving us more problems, but we didn't get a better experience from it. Now, this is where we actually need to go to our project settings. We actually need to do multiple things. And I kind of like that I'm doing this like freestyle without planning it ahead. Simply because you can see the problems that I'm facing and the core things in tech art or profiling that you should be doing that I just didn't do to begin with, which is not the sharpest tool in the shed, not gonna lie. So first thing you need to do, a couple things really. First is to put T in, again, your tilde key to put in a command, dot max FPS, and set that to 0. That means no smoothing is gonna happen. And then I think it's r.vsync, and then you set that to 0 as well, to again stop any sort of smoothing of the frames. You go to edit, and then you go to project settings, and then you search for smooth frame rate, and then you turn that off. And now you get a more bare bone action thing that Unreal is no longer trying to optimize stuff for you to make it a little smoother, and is just giving you the raw data that you would be expecting. So let's have another look. Delete, and then delete. So we know that we deleted our rain. Let's bring it back and start looking again with our newly founded knowledge. So here's a screenshot. We are running at this amount. And then let's go with the rain first. And then let's hide the rain. And let's put it on the big screen again. Whoop. And then let's go with a fog. Crap, I didn't unhide them before. Whoops. Fog. Culprit fog. Whoop. Okay. Put it on full screen again. Have a quick screenshot. See what we're working with. So, again, now that we put them next to each other, we're still kind of seeing that the frame rate didn't really change much. Or in any case, it even got worse. Now, this is some stuff in which, because we removed smooth frame rate, maybe I caught this one specific snapshot before it normalized, basically. So to do more analysis of that, and I'll show it later on, because I know for a fact removing overdraw made it a little better, I can show you how to make FPS charts to then see on average how the performance was doing. So again, let's see what else do we have. We see that there's more fog particles on the ground. We just found these two. Let's place these inside our culprit fog and then hide them as well. Put it back to full screen. See what we have right now. So suddenly we're almost close to 60 FPS. Wait, weren't we kind of struggling a second before? Well, quad overdraw just bites you in the butt, I guess. We go back, see what else is going on, try to click in some places, we see nothing. So we kind of know that we're in a little better place right now. We do our famous stat GPU, see what we're looking with. Shadow depth is taken a lot. We'll have to have a look at what is rendering so much that is causing all of this to go bad, basically. And again, this stream is going to be more about me identifying the problems. Fixing them is either going to be a different stream or something I do later on, simply because it would require different approaches to stuff. So, for instance, when we have all this fog, we can maybe switch it for some volumetrics. We can maybe switch it for some fog cards. A lot of different techniques that can do the same output, basically. Okay, so we have this frame again. What we can also do to get a little more debugging going on here is to click Control, Shift, and then comma. That would open our GPU debugger. So in here, in our render scene, we can see that shadow depth is indeed taking quite a lot of time. So now this is running on Nanite. And since it's running on Nanite, this is not something I just now have much experience in. We can, however, see that there's a lot of elements coming to Nanite, and Nanite is trying to read all of them. So if we go to Nanite up to Nanite view, we can start seeing what we have in here. There's a lot of overdraw coming in. And this was actually a foliage problem that was also in one of the other levels. And let's have a look at what's going on. So if we click on our foliage pieces, we can see that there's actually a lot of foliage everywhere. Well, you're most likely not going to see almost anything that goes beyond the horizon, just because it's dark and you just don't notice in general. So what we can do is we go to our foliage and we start seeing what we're working with. So let me double check. I may have already, oh nope, see, call distance is 0, which is a little bit of a problem in our case. Let me move this a little. So what we have in our foliage, which is these small actors that are being, what would you call it, scattered throughout the scene. Once oh yeah, you can't select stuff in here. Okay, you can see that we have a lot of these, and by a lot, I mean a lot of these actors that are existing and being rendered like way beyond where they should be rendered. We don't know if this is a problem just yet, so let's start doing some stuff to see if they actually save us some performance. In hindsight, if we fix this, we might save some performance, but if it's only saving a single millisecond when our scene is working flawlessly at 60 FPS, then there's not really much of a point at doing so. So again, let's go to our foliage mode. Let us go to our famous camera. Actually, I just remembered something, and that is you can set bookmarks in Unreal. If you click Control and then click on a number, you can set a bookmark to view. So here I Control 1. Let me double check that it's actually Control 1. If I go back and I click 1, it goes back to the same frame. So here we realized that my idea of having a camera in there is absolutely useless, and I got basically nothing from it. But I mean, I'll get over it. Hey yo, Limbo, how you doing, buddy? So again, go back to our foliage. Get a view at how we're performing. Now I just realized that because we're not piloting the camera anymore, we're kind of getting a little different metrics than what we were getting before. So let's just quickly have a look at what we're working with. So now that we're working with foliage, we start looking at our main culprits. We see that, for instance, we have 56k of these random rocks that are being scattered around. What? Like, what is going on here? Someone dying. So if we set it to 1, we can see that a lot of the noise on the ground kind of disappeared. But before we do any of that, we set this back to 0, and we have a quick look at what our frame rate is before we do any of this work. So we put this on the bottom bit again, and always take before and after, because it just helps us get a better idea of how grounded we are. And again, sometimes the average can be a lot less than the screenshot you took, and this is why you need to do charts. But in the end of the day, we're just getting stuff going really quickly. So to get another screenshot, let's say it's an average between between 20 milliseconds and 21 milliseconds. Put them just on top of each other. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove all the rocks that currently exist, and then take this guy, and then take another screenshot, put it on the side, and then take another screenshot to approximate what we are working with. So having, okay, that is my fault. So if we're highlighting foliage, Unreal is basically lowering the amount of importance that's happened to the scene to render, and this is why the frame rate runs down a little. So let's delete these, lower the foliage tool, make this our main point of focus. Again, we're running at almost 60 FPS, which is really good. So we have this on the side, take another screenshot to get an average, wait for my PC to die, and put it on the side. So now that we have that, we can go back to our foliage and set that back to 0. Now, what I just realized is that these metrics are after I removed the foliage and not before. So let's take a screenshot, boom. Let's take another screenshot, boom. We realized that in the end of the day, did we really save much? Well, let's have a look. Before, our draw thread was at 13 milliseconds and 14 milliseconds average, which is actually makes no sense now that I look at it. We had our GPU at 16 milliseconds. Okay, well. So now we don't have it. And again, let's minimize this. Do this again, one quick time. Whoop. We have our two quick thingies. We're running our drawing GPU at this amount. We go here, we remove them completely, or we set the draw to 1 basically. Whoop. And then go back to 1. Okay, and then we let them be as far as they want to be. And then we take 1. Okay, this is interesting. So we're sort of not doing much at all, and in a case when we're adding the rocks, when we're adding the stones, we're kind of getting more performance going on from there, which is something we'll kind of need to have a look at. So, just in case, let us set our max call distance to something like 10,000, because it's just like, you know, valid. Let's have these guys. These are already called. These are already doing it bit, already doing its role. Let's see. There's no point in casting much shadows, because again, almost everything in here isn't really doing much. But we need to remember that these are also being used in different levels. So this is also where we want to think about breaking down our foliage into different bits. So stopping from here, we know that what we had before was giving us quite a bit of a problem. And we got over it basically. We start to zoom out a little to see that actually in here there is a lot of actors that are doing the dance in here. What are these doing? What are these? Let's have a look and try to understand. So in here we have a big sprite sheet that goes very far to, I think, beyond what we can see, that is just existing and enjoying its life. So again, go back to full screen. Let's see if it's really doing much. We're at an average of, let's say, around 60 FPS. Let's grab this guy and let's just hide both. Go back to full screen, take a couple quick screenshots. Whoop. Well, now, yes, it kind of got a little better, but is it really that noticeable? That's when we need to like start counting our like fights. Is it really worth it? Is it really worth to remove it for like a couple of like nanoseconds? Maybe yes, maybe not. But let's bring them back for now. And the back ones for sure, we're not seeing any of that. So we can remove that for sure for now. And we can put it back in full screen. Again, something that never existed got deleted. More power to us. So let's go back. We're currently know that we are running a good, respectable, humble 56 FPS. That's good. That's good. Let's keep going. Let's keep looking at what we can keep crunching. We turn around and we realize we're running on a much lower frame rate. Why? What's going on? Now here we see that our draw thread is also dying again. So let's go to an unlit view and start trying to understand why is our draw thread dying. Well, that means a lot of things are trying to shadow, and we kind of need to see what's going on with that. But before we really get into that, let's go back to our problem, which was the lighting going crazy on us. So F11, we go to our light. I think we named them culprit lights. Culprit. We deleted that. Interesting. Apologies. Optimization view mode, stationary light over. Nope, there's no. Okay, light complexity. We know that it's these big light bros that are causing most of the problem. Let's go back in here. Okay, so there's a lot of light overlap happening in here. Let's find it again. Base string, blah, 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 blah. Search for light again. Okay, my lights in here are fine. I'm trying to understand specifically. Okay, so we found our culprits. We hide them. Yeah, my mouse is going a little crazy. So, we have a little bit more than what we thought are the culprits before. So if we go, actually, nope, never mind. We also see that there's a bunch of, okay, they are calling just at a very, very, like, further-ish space, I would say. So, in this level, I think specifically, I'm not sure you can go out at all, but you can see this edge. So if we hide these, we can see the amount of, let's have a look at where these lights are coming from as well. So, so maybe this light is causing a little bit in here. Nope. So we know this light. Actually, first things first, let's just, okay. So there's a bunch of lights causing this back sort of lighting, and let's try to select these by themselves and isolate them. Let's call these backlight. Okay. So this is all, and my keyboard is going crazy again. Okay. So then we know that these guys are giving a lot of highlight to the castle top. So let's name this castle top. Okay. Now we have these guys. Now we know for a fact this. So what is this light specifically doing in here? Also one of the backlights, I assume. Yes, so it is a part of the backlights. What do we have in here? This is a light that's inside the entire thing, which if we hide, can't really reach, because one, we know for a fact the door is closed, and this entire level won't really allow us to go in there. So there's not really much of a point to have this at all. So we can actually set the call distance, which is max draw distance already set, which is really good, but we can just lower it a lot more because we're just never gonna see this guy. So here also inside the castle, but the max draw distance is not really set, so it's the entire time. Also, just because a level designer should be having a look at this, let's not completely. Same thing for here. Lights inside the castle, we don't care about them. So we can lower the culling distance. So again, we're just having a quick look on how we can get some easy wins. Now this is one of the big lights that should be affecting the castle. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. We can see that it's sort of shadowing, or yeah, my keyboard is actually annoying me quite a bit. Yep. Okay, where were we before? So this light is adding to this area. So let's maybe call this bridge light. Yeah, it's getting worse. Bridge. Reboot to my thingy, and let's call this bridge light. Okay. So yep, this didn't do much. So we go back, castle, hide it. This will never really for us. What's in here? Now what's in here is a big light, and let's see what it's trying to do. From this viewpoint, you can see that to us, at least from our viewpoint, that isn't really doing much. So we can just get rid of this guy completely. What about this guy? Also, not really doing anything for us. Remove. Not really doing anything from us. Also remove. Try to find where this random light is. Again, lower the culling distance just for the sake of our usage. Because we don't want it to, again, be rendering when we're not next to it. But in general, I would remove all the lights within the castle. But just for the sake of our... oh, this one is at 50k. Set that to 1,000 as well. And let's have a look at our lighting right after this. So we have this guy in here, also set to 50,000. Let's see, does it really change anything in our view? Quite ever so slightly. So for now, let's just set it to something like 2k. And what do we have in here? Okay, so these are like maybe window lights that will never be seen. Set them to something low. Then we have interior lights. We know that these did not bother us much, but I just realized that we can see one of the lights that's in here. And we can see that it's actually 75,000 instead of 7,500. And when we go further now, so if we're here, yes, we should be able to see it, but we're further away. There's not having that much like light going on there. Or if we want it, when I add the troops in Orband, makes sense. So yeah, in general, we either fade this completely or we to replace this. But just for the sake of what we're working here, let's just remove it completely. And again, more optimization and more looking at stuff rather than just find them will be more like later down the line. So again, we see here, again, 75,000. Let's just do 1,000 for that and keep going. Quick pass on the light. A lot of things were actually 75,000. And we kind of just need to tone the hell out of that. Okay. So now we have a bunch of really pretty looking colored lights, minus these two that are giving me a headache in here. Usually you would make some tooling for this to make this a little easier and more straightforward, but for now, because we're not having custom built of the engine, we're not really gonna do that right now. So again, we have more spotlights in here that don't have max draw distances. Set that to 100 again. Now, of course, go back to our light complexity. We still have some like more reds going on, a lot less white, which is really good, but we still have some red going on. So let's have a closer look. And now you can see culling doing its job a lot better. When we're far, nothing is happening, and when we're closer, we can start seeing doing its stuff. So once we're here, we can see, well, there's still some lights doing stuff in here, Well, I can't probably see this. Does this have a Alt 7? Okay. So Alt 7 and then Alt 1, I think, to go back to Alt 4. Okay. So Alt 7, Alt 4, Alt 7, Alt 4. So we see that there's a couple more lights that are being a little troublesome in here. Well, what's going on? Let's get closer and try to find them. So again, it's more of a process of finding these buggers and seeing what they're doing under the hood. We can see that desired draw distance, which is fine. These buggers are with inside lights that I probably missed earlier while doing the previous optimization pass do not have a draw distance as well. Now, again, this is something that you will never see from the inside of the map, from your side at least, but it's still crushing your like performance simply because it exists and it doesn't really care that much about your feelings, let's be completely honest. So again, honestly, what I would do usually is just delete these, but for the sake of, again, showing what we can do before and after, or like solving this by yourself, I think that that's a good example. I think I already did the lights for these. They already have draw distances. And yeah, what about this guy? Oh, there's another one of these. Cool. So we still have a couple big culprits going on here. So we need to find them before going anywhere too crazy. So there's a big light going on in here. Let's find it. So we go ahead, go out. Okay, so it's one of these. We hide everything else because we don't care about it. Go back to lights, boom. Cave lights, nope. Culprits, yes. So we know that backlight, castle top. Let's find these guys. Boom. Hide them. Not one of these guys. Go back to interior lights. Not interior lights. What? So. Okay, it's bridge light. Interesting. Okay. So the bridge light is actually our big chunker that is killing almost all of our frame. Let's find out why. Go back. Lit. And it's this guy who, from our viewpoint, I'm not sure matters that much. So put it here. Hide. Unhide. Hide. Unhide. Do you see the difference? Neither do I. It's probably adding some bounce lighting to this bit, and we can just add that through like a single small thingy that's working. So kill it for now. Go back. Unreal Engine 5, my friend. 5.1 to be exact. Woo. So again, optimization view modes. Go back to our light complexity. We still have some people doing some bits in here, and we realize it's all within the castle top. So in here and in here and in here and in here. And again, they're really big lights. So let's see what we can do with them. We know exactly where they are and what they're doing. So whoop, 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 whoop. All of this can kind of be replaced by a single spotlight, really, because one, it's not giving anything outside of this specific parameter, and spotting basically in a nutshell. So what we can do to quickly replace this, and again, this is one of the very few examples I'll actually give of solving something, is go to our spotlight in here and take it in. I'm actually wondering, where is our main directional light now that I think about it? Let's leave this here for now. Let's call this Jad light so I know to get back to it really quickly. But where's our directional light? Okay, so we have a directional light and we hide it and it's actually doing nothing. So we're spending some performance to have a directional light, but we're not using it. So do you see where the problem is? So all this lighting that we're using in here is to kind of make up for our lack of light, but we have our main light, and directional light is basically our sun. So it's basically nighttime, And instead of using the sunlight, which right now is the moonlight, to light everything, we're just taking a bunch of light bulbs and trying to shine them on everything. So let's have a look. If we just hire this and make this something crazy, it's still not showing us much. Well, let's try to figure out why. We have our angle is fine. We're using a temperature as well, which is fine, but setting this to a scary value isn't really doing much still. So let's have more looks into what's going on. And we have effects world set to off. I will lower. Whoop. And this is what we should had. What we should have. That is broken English. That is what we should have had, but it was deleted because of reasons. Now, shadows, maybe. But so what I think was the reason for this is that we did not want lighting to hit that part and only wanted the lighting to kind of not affect us within this specific region. Well, we could have either used light blocking volume, so we tell the light not to show in some places, or if we choose to not use the directional light, which is completely fair, we take it, we kill it. We don't keep it just for the sake of keeping it because it's quite expensive. We go back actually to our light complexity, which we figured out that is Alt 7. And we go back to these lights that we were about to replace with a single light. And then go back to Alt 4. Go back to here. We have the top lights. I think castle top, yes. Are they hidden or? I'm very confused. Okay. Okay. This is gonna take a little longer than I expected. What is this light doing? Oh, it's my light. Okay, that's fine. And here we have our castle top, which I wasn't sure. Maybe my mouse was acting up again. Yep, my mouse is definitely acting up again. Castle top again. So we hide it. My mouse. Whoop, 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 whoop. We see what's going on. So instead of keeping it as is, let's take my Jad light actually and put it in castle top. And go up, 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 up. Keep going upwards. Keep going upwards. Your accent sounds Romanian. No, my friend. I currently live in the UK, but I am originally Lebanese, my friend. This is not gonna be the fastest thing in the world, is it? Okay, so instead of naming it Jad Light, how about we rename it into a Jad Light, so it would go on top of everything. So a Jad Light. So we can do. So it's in moss. Why am I doing that? I could have just deleted the damn light and put it again. I just like hurting my own soul. Whoop. And then click on it. And then fail to click on it like 3 times. And then whoop, whoop. Okay. And let's place our light right under there. And that did not work. Whatever, I give up. Let's be honest. I'll just deal with it as is. Jad light, keep like going back and forth from them. Okay, so we know we have in here. What is this actually? Just a rectangle light. What in the name of what? I did not notice any of these, let us be completely honest. Well, most of these, now that I look at it, are oh, okay. I did not notice these little tap on my side. Rect lights are basically the most expensive form of lights that you can work with in Unreal. Okay, so all the lighting is coming from rectangle lights. Okay, well, let's just hide them for the sake of my sanity. And then if we hide these lights, again for the sake of my sanity. And before we start doing any sort of massive, yep, the rect lights again. We place this here, we put this in full screen. And now, again, we kind of killed our lighting, which we shouldn't be doing because we're smarter than that. We take a look, and then we take another look, and then we put it back. So, what we kind of ended up with is we're still kind of crunched on the GPU. And I'm really starting to wonder what is specifically causing all of this to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start hiding stuff on the random. Actually, my draw thread, I did not notice this earlier. Okay, never mind. But something is still trying to render quite a bit and causing the shadows to go crazy. And I do think the amount of that are not directional are kind of causing all of this mayhem. So let's place a directional light in here. Beautiful. And let's set it to visible. That's the first thing we need to do. Now it's daytime. So now we set it to something like darkish blue. And again, I'm only testing this to see like what exactly is going on rather than why this is happening. So light, so now I was direct light. Okay. And we agreed that we already have some shadowing going on. I think we definitely had some form of shadowing going on. Go back to 1. Go back to F11, and it kind of brings us back to the same bit. So again, we kind of need to start looking more into scattering of our rectangle lights, replace them with spotlights and work from there. But again, now I'm looking into directions or like solutions rather than just like having a look of what was wrong and what was causing us to like get all our lag on our side. So we go back in here, we go back to the first bit, we find our rectangle lights, we hide them, we realize that the rectangle lights were kind of just beating us in the butt. Put it up, and we just realized we went from our original 30 frames per second to a whopping, okay, so let's actually go a little bit more in depth. So we were at 30 frames per second. Removing the fog cards took us to around 57 to 50. I would say this is the highest. I wouldn't really count it as our main value. I would say took us to around 50-ish FPS. So that gave us around 15 FPS. Then, after we removed all the carrier lightings, mind you, this is dark completely. So I would add another 5 milliseconds, I would say, around a millisecond or 2 on the actual lighting that we will replace these with. And they'll probably be like a bunch of spotlights. And it will like just play a little in regard. We take these people, we delete them as well, go back to 1. And yeah, we're kind of like running at a good FPS. And before you go like, okay, well, you deleted everything out of the game, of course you're going to get a better FPS. Well, yes, this is how game dev works. If you have an empty scene, you're going to be running at the best FPS that you're ever going to have. The second you start adding a match or a tiny element or anything that's going to happen, you're going to start losing like milliseconds. And that's the most important thing to understand when working with this, is that you're really working with hardware. You're not really working with hardware and software. You're not really working outside the scope. So instead of us going like, oh, we need to fix this, we need to get our lights going, we need to get X and Y going, what instead we kind of got out of this, if we open our sticky notes, because I sticky notes is my points, we understood that fog plus rain particles is one of the problems. Current problems night scene. Okay, we have our fog plus rain particles. Approx around, we earlier said we were at 27 milliseconds, a whopping 5 milliseconds approximate, which is a lot. You realize how much is 5 milliseconds because it kind of translates, give or take, to around 10 FPS, if you want to name it that. And we know that we have our... We had another thing aside from our lighting. Oh, the... what was it? I actually forgot. Our lights culling was around another, like, approx 1 to 2 milliseconds. And the crowd in the background was like half a millisecond, really. Not really much going on in there. Oh, you still wonder, well, yes, we're running at like 60 FPS, but our GPU is still kind of dying. Well, this is what Nanite and Lumen is. Lumen and Nanite just take a lot of performance, and you just kind of have to live with it, really. So next stream or whatever we're working with, I would say solve the problems that we currently have, find different solutions, find different ways to fix the same problem, and get it going, mainly. So yeah, really, I can go a lot more in depth or a lot more into explaining why and what is stuff happening, but that would be something for a different day. I'll just go into some view modes to try and have a look at what we have, what we're working with. I kind of feel that there's desolation in here. Trying to understand why this is growing bigger, actually. This is a little intriguing to me. Let's go to unlit mode to try and see, is there tessellation on this bit? Helm's deep landscape. I don't care about all of this. Let's just go to here. Nope. Okay, I'm good. That's quite good. Think we're just doing a triplanar blending. Yeah. And then LARPing the materials. Yep, makes sense. Okay, this is way less educational right now and more of me exploring. But I mean, better than having the stream stop, so do enjoy. So go back, I would say, trying again different view modes just to try and see what we're working with. Detail lighting, I mean, we killed all the lighting, so not much is gonna go on. Reflections are doing their own thing. There's also the idea of lowering different rendering settings happening in game. So for instance, if we go to lit and we go to here, and actually I forgot where specifically this is. Show stats, field the view. There was a place where you could see. My brain farted. I genuinely forgot what I was trying to find, not gonna lie. Yeah, my brain completely farted. LODs. Actually, LODs. How's our LODs doing? Okay, landscape is LODing normally. Everything else isn't really LODing, which is fine because we're using Nanite. So visualizer is normal. And I genuinely forgot what I wanted to do. Oh, cinematic settings. Okay, so there's a part where you can change the camera settings, epic, and so maybe in here actually. Windows, Okay, let me just quickly try to find what I wanted to find. You basically can differentiate or like find and choose what sort of settings you want to run. So you can force the game to say, okay, now run in low settings, run in medium settings, run on high settings, and run on ultra settings. But I generally forgot where that is currently because I just never do that in production, I would say. But yeah, I guess I'll just keep looking for that at a later time. For now, I guess I would say we went to a good performance wise. We understand what our problems are. We need to fix them. How we need to fix them is a bigger problem. And settings on the right. Okay, nice. Okay, engine scalability settings. Good man. Why is it on the right though? This is so ugly. I can't really show it for everyone. Good point. Thank you, buddy. So again, we realized we were running at like, let's go back to our main scene, but again, we kind of killed out the light, so we can't really work with it anymore. Thank you, Tweety. So settings, and then engine scalability settings, and now it's currently all at epic. I'm not sure you can, oh yeah, you can see it, but I need to move a little more. Engine scalability settings, and now everything is in here. So you can like set it to low, give it a second for your like engine to start being like, whoops, what is going on? I'm dying. And like with a small potential of it crashing. And yeah, I wouldn't usually do that, but this is like a almost close enough idea of what your game might look like on a lower end PC. Now the FPS is a little worse because it's preparing shaders. It basically recomputes the shaders to make it work with what would you call it? It's basically recomputing stuff for lower end hardware. Some stuff changed under the hood. It should appear in the top of main screen once it opens once top of main. Does it? I don't think so. I mean, UE5 is a little different than UE4 if that's what you're referring to. Does it? I have no idea. But I do know that I have it in here, which is really good right now. Hopefully it stays there. And I'm not sure I want to wait for 7K shaders to start, not gonna lie. So I'll stop it in here. I didn't really set a middle ground for stuff, so let me just do that. So yeah, basically what we did today, get back our notes. Yep, saw them, buddy. Get back our notes in here, blah, blah, blah. Put it. Can we make the font bigger quite easily? Of course we can't. So let's just open Notepad++, I guess. Put it on the side because I probably have a bunch of... Okay. Let's have them here. Make my big ass head a little smaller. Bring it here. So again, current problems that we found from this nice, fun, family-friendly stream. Fog and rain particles are killing us. Light culling is almost non-existent again, which we also have rectangle lights that are really big and are kind of biting us in the butt. And the crowd in the background is taking a little. Now we either change it for just a quad that is like faking all these effects, or we just deal with it because it's not really that much of a change. Probably like I would say 5 FPS-ish, which if we're running at 60 FPS, we don't really care. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I'll see if there's any questions in chat, although if it's production chats or stuff, I can't really answer it. I can only answer more of like Unreal tech art stuff. So I'll hang for a minute. If no questions come up that are like a little more technical, I'll hop by. I'll say thank you for with me. Hope it's been fun. Hope it's been, I tried to make it a little educational. Yeah. So Jeezy or G-Easy said, alright, it's going to be a fan-made, free-to-play project, but can people still fund it? I believe we, on the website, there is a link to donate. Conquest Reimagined. Let's have a look. Support us. And then, yeah, Sporani put it here. But yeah, you can go click on the donate button, help us out. And you can also join in, volunteer, and be like one of the workforce helping us in. Investing time is the same as investing money. And in the end of the day, we're a free project, and we want to keep everyone happy with what we're working with. So yeah, thank you for watching. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all take care. Boy. I don't know how to close this that easily. Let's be completely honest. Boy.